Scotland against Argentina, folks, this Saturday from Murrayfield. Two teams, wee bit up and down this year. Not quite sure what to expect, but it should be a pretty interesting one. And these teams have got some proper recent history as well, which is always adding a little bit of spice to things. But yeah, we'll go through some squads, prediction stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how it may get and go. If you want Scottish gear, Lovell Rugby have got loads of it. So, yeah, I'll put a link down in the description, man. They've got this year's gear, jackets, sevens gear, like bloody everything. If you're a Scotland rugby fan, yeah, check out Lovell Rugby. Lots of gear. Scotland, 9th in the world. Argentina, 6th. But like I said, you feel like on their days, Scotland were leading the All Blacks for quite some time. Just a week ago, 6-day turnaround as well for them, I should add. Argentina beat the All Blacks in New Zealand just a few months ago and then lost to them by like 50 points the very next week. So, not quite sure what to expect. The Scots, though, have, it was their last game and they've kept a pretty stable squad. They've had to make a few changes. Where Ritchie Gray ended up getting cited, so he's not available for this one. Hamish Watson and Roy Sutherland both injured, so there's a few enforced changes, but still Schoeman, Brown and Zander Fagerson, that's the same front row. I think they'll be pretty pleased to keep those three guys together. Jonny Gray steps up from the bench. It's been weird seeing the tackling machine that is Jonny Gray on the bench. I feel like if you play Jonny Gray, you start Jonny Gray, but that's just me. And then Grant Gilchrist alongside him. Matt Fagerson shifts to 6. To make way for Jack Dempsey, who's up from the bench to number 8. And then Jamie Ritchie switches to 7 in place of Hamish Watson. And I mean, Ritchie won 2 turnovers last week, so he was kind of taking that role as his own anyway. So that still looks like a pretty well-balanced back row for mine. And Matt Fagerson's been getting through millions of tackles. Ali Price, Finn Russell, 9 and 10. I think they worked pretty well last week, and Finn Russell was kicking his goals. They just needed to unlock that AB's defence, which they may get a chance to do against the Argentinians in terms of unlocking defences. Tuipulotu, Harris, 12 and 13. But the story has been more about the wingers, man. Graham and Duhan. I mean, Duhan last week had like 10 carries, 11 defenders beaten. It's not supposed to be that way around. You're supposed to have more carries than defenders beaten, but not if you're big Duhan. And then Stuart Hogg is there at fullback. So the back line is unchanged. It's just a few bit of kind of tinkering changes to the forwards. Replacements-wise, though, George Turner's in, Jamie Bhatti's in, Murphy Walker's back in, Glen Young's in, Andy Christie's in. So it's an all-new forward pack on the bench. And then Ben White, Blair, Kinghorn, Cam Redpath is called back. So, yeah, there's changes on the bench, but not so much in the starting 15 would be kind of a long story short with the Scots. For the Argentinians, they were disappointed last week against the Welsh, but Checkers resisted the urge to kind of make wholesale changes. Gajo, Montoya, and Bejo are the front row. That's a pretty much all-new front row. I mean, Montoya was due to start last week, but pulled out, so it was Crevy, but it's back to Montoya. Gajo did start, but I'm not sure it was him because he only had 1 carry. It's like an imposter. Gajo loves a carry. I refuse to believe that was the real Gajo. And then Bejo replaces Cordella, who's gone back to his club in France. So, yeah, it's a bit of a change front row. Montoya's back to being captain. Alemano and Lavanini are the second row. Alemano was good last week, got a couple of line-out steals, but that was one of the few areas they were actually able to pinch the ball. Like Juan Martin Gonzalez, Marcos Crema, and Paulo Matero, who's the same back row as last week, didn't get a single turnover. So, yeah, that's an area they'll need to up their game because they're usually pretty good at that kind of thing. Bertrano and Carreras are the 9-10 combo, same as last week. De La Fuente and Orlando is the 12-13. They've been swapping Orlando and Moroni around a wee bit, so this is kind of a continuation of that. Delguy is on the right wing. Haven't seen him play that much rugby under Checker, but it's good to see him get another go. It's been all about Buffelli this year, to be honest, though. Getting tries, kicking his goals, just being generally very dangerous, good in the air. So it kind of goes without saying that he's going to be in the back three somewhere. And then Mallia is still there at fullback. So not real wholesale changes, just again a little bit of tinkering. Ruiz, Chaparro, and Medrano are the front row replacements. So with no Cordella, Medrano is called into the squad. Paulos, Isa, same. Velez-Bazan is back into the 23 after being injured for quite some time. Likewise, Nico Sanchez, haven't seen him for quite some time. And then Moroni, as I mentioned. So, yeah, changes, but not wholesale changes for either side. Stats-wise, I mean, I was talking up Duhan and Graham, but I mean, just Scotland generally, partly due to these guys. They've beaten defenders for fun, the Scots. They're averaging 23 defenders beaten a game, which is just one behind the All Blacks. The All Blacks like to beat a lot of defenders, so too do Scotland. Both sides concede similar numbers of penalties. Argentina 12 a game, the Scots 11 a game. Both sides have similar line-out percentages, 89% for the Argentinians, 88% for the Scots, so not much in it. But one thing Argentina can do is certainly kick their way to victory. They did it against the All Blacks when they beat us here in NZ. They got 88% across the year, which is the highest percentage of any of the Tier 1 teams. So yeah, you got to be careful of Boffelli in that boot, and Scotland fans, with him playing his domestic rugby in Scotland, will be absolutely aware of the danger that his boot does possess. It's got accuracy this year, and he's always had the range, so I think maybe Contepomi is a factor in that improvement. Recent history between the sides, it's pretty recent. The last 3 games were in 2022, with the Scots touring Argentina, and then the previous 2 are only 2018, so not that long ago. Some of the teams we've been comparing, you look back to 2013 or even longer for their most recent games. So it is a relatively recent history, and it's pretty tight, man. 3-2 to the Scots, average score being 27-18. Well, there's a blowout in there, which is back to 2018 where it was 44-15. That kind of doesn't do the average any good. And then likewise 29-6 this year when the Scots had their really good game. But a lot of the games have been close, man. The most recent one, 34-31, that comeback win from the Argentinians, that game was crazy. If we get a game half as good as that, I think we'll be in for a treat at Murrayfield this weekend. It's a 3:15 kickoff, I think. Carl Dixon's the ref, which makes it 4:15 for me here in NZ. So this is probably going to be the first game I get up and watch. So hopefully it's a good start to my day. Don't let me down, Scotland and Argentina. Predictions-wise, the bookies have got the Scots by 3, and the Rugby Forecast algorithm has got the Scots by 9. So either way, man, I look forward to seeing who gets on top. And as I said, it's kind of hard to predict because both these sides are a wee bit inconsistent, to put it bluntly. They can certainly both light a game up, and they can also be a bit of a damp squib at times. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.